Hello everybody, this is John and this is the Merschman Seed Ag Weather Outlook, the weekly weather briefing, November 10th, 2018. Well, I told you last week it was going to be a really cold week, and it looks like that's what occurred. We also had a bit of snow, and we look at this past rainfall over the last week, and you might say, hey, that looks a little odd. Well, that's because it's snow. The radar's only picking it up so far away from the radar center. So the radar estimates aren't the greatest for snow, but it does show we had a lot of light snow in the colder air. You can almost see the dividing line right here. Look at this. Notice how the radar characteristics are different in this rain, this precipitation, than further to the north. Well, this is mainly snow, and that's mainly rain. So we did get quite a bit of light snow, a couple pockets of heavier snow in the yellow, but most was in the 1 to 3 inch range, and even I think most was only in the inch or so range. So it's really showing the very cold air that's pushed in. We're also getting lee effect snow. Look at the way the warmer waters of the Great Lakes is north wind getting some really heavy snow on the lee side of the lake. So sounds like I'm talking about January and February here, isn't it? And it's only November, so very unusual. We've actually had a fairly snowy start to the season. This is a total snowfall. So look how many areas have already received some snow. Most of it light, but over the central plains, some heavy snow. Now, because the air is so cold, the snow is lingering on the ground a bit. Temperatures were in the teens, if not colder in many spots, in the 20s over the southern tier of the Corn Belt. So snow is still on the ground, a couple inches here and there. You can see the areas in teal, that's a couple inches of snow. And we will probably get above freezing. This will melt, but it'll be slow to melt because we're not going to get above freezing by much in many areas. I wanted to touch on the fires in Southern California. Look at that area of brown. That's a relative humidity of less than 10%. There is no moisture in the air, either at the surface or aloft in that area. Winds are very strong, and also we have very dry soils, and because of that we have that high fire risk. Now, over the last week over the Corn Belt, you can see temperatures were well below normal in this pattern right here. The areas of blue and purple were more significantly below normal. The blue was about 9 degrees below normal. The purple was as much as 10 to 20 degrees below normal. And you can see how that air is pushing off to the east. These were the temperature changes in the last 24 hours, 10 to 20 degrees colder than they were just one day ago. So you can see where it's really pushed in. Missouri, for example, parts of Iowa, almost the entire central and eastern Corn Belt this morning is about 15 degrees colder than it was 24 hours ago. The entire Corn Belt now has gotten to 32 degrees. Most also, with this cold snap now, 28 degrees. I'm really pretty amazed at how wet it is in many areas. You know, we look at winter and spring as the time we recharge our soils moisture, and what you see here is the blue is unusually wet soils. So I'm going to keep that in mind, as we get into early next year, when we're talking about spring flooding. Way off, we've got a lot of time to things to change significantly. But it is unusual how wet the soils are for fall, which is usually a dry time of the year. And because of that, we have a lot of spots, rivers that are above flooding, are near flood stage. Yellow is near flood stage, orange is a bit above flood stage, but they're coming down now. The heaviest rain has passed, and we're going through a fairly long-term recession. Okay, this is the pattern now. We talk about the forecast. We have this big dip in the jet stream. This is the polar vortex. It's weak, and what we get when it's weak, we get these little wobbly lobes that rotate around, and each one of these brings a little push of cooler air or colder air, and that's what we're going to have. At the surface, we have this big area of high pressure here, cold, dry, sunny skies, and we're going to have one more pushing through, and that's going to reinforce it. Now let's take a look at the longer term. This is the next 14 days, and pick any spot. Let's just pick Des Moines here. Well, look at this: blue, white, and brown. Blue is generally a dip in the jet stream, colder than normal. White near normal, and then brown a bit above normal. So the jet stream straightening out and lifting as we get towards Thanksgiving, but until then, very cold. Let's look at Des Moines again. Blue, white, and then brown. So unusually cold, then pulling back to near normal, and then a bit above normal. And that looks like the pattern over the next 2 weeks. But we do have another cold front pushing through. This is Monday. Here's a secondary cold front right here. Here's even another push of colder air. So we're going to have quite a bit of colder air pushing through, and we could get some light snow with that, or flurries, but overall it's going to be a dry week, cold and dry week, but gradually moderating temperatures as we get further into the week. Here's the snow forecast. Snow is going to be associated with that first front and maybe along that second front. Also some enhancement along the lee side of the lakes. So, but in the middle of the high pressure here, pretty dry week. 6 to 10 day. Well, here's the dividing line. And then by 8 to 14, as we're nearing Thanksgiving, look at the milder air pushing in. Areas that have been unusually cold will be on the mild side. Probably this time of year, we're looking forward to that. And then as we look to the precipitation, 6 to 10, very strong dry signal, and mainly dry in the 8 to 14 as well. So, in summary, another cold push, some light snow with it, no big deal. Cold temperatures, but then warming. Week 1 cold, week 2 warming, that's the general trend. Okay, a programming note. Now that we're going into the cold season, I usually switch this briefing to Sundays. I think I'm going to start that next week and give you a little bit bigger picture now that we're mainly out of the growing season. I think it's a little bit more important to look at the bigger picture. So I'll be switching that over starting next week. Have a great week.